Hello. Okay, I'm trying to be live here. The Are you seeing me or the countdown timer? Because I'm not seeing anything on my end. Oh, there it is. It just popped up, and now I guess we're gonna start about a minute early. That's fine. Sheesh. I don't know what's going on with this. Could be any number of things. Could be EV which is my broadcast software. It could be EV is having an issue with YouTube. It could be YouTube is having an issue with EV It could be any number of things. Windows just did an update. That's also a potential issue. So it just now hit 12 noon here on the West Coast, Pacific Daylight Time. And yeah, we're live. Okay, nobody is more surprised and shocked than I am. Well, Mark didn't get a haircut. He just tucked it behind his ears. He's going for that old shaggy old man look now. I mean, I've threatened to put it up in a ponytail, but right now it'd be a really short pony. But yeah, okay. Well, hey, we're live. Today is a open Q&A where we can talk about just about anything on your mind, CNC or woodworking related. Oh, hell no, Bruce. Ain't gonna be no man bun. Ain't gonna be no man bun. No, that's not happening. Anyhow, there isn't really there is a question, but I'm seeing some interest here. And once again, 8 Center brought it up. This seems to be a pattern, you know what I mean? I can't bring it up because EV didn't connect to YouTube far enough back to where I could highlight it, but I can read it off. This is just an observation. I haven't seen anybody really talking about planning specifically the color schemes and contrasts in inlaid work. Then he goes on to say, what I've been doing is pocketing a pattern cutout, taking a screenshot, and moving to Photoshop, removing the white gaps and overlaying on various texture images. What do others do? Is the color scheme of woods just all in their heads? I can only speak for myself, and maybe some of the other folks out there in the chat could, get us a little bit more, give us their opinions. Doing inlays, while I haven't done many, I'm just investigating it, okay? I'm just getting ready to enter into that foray. There are 2 gurus that I watch repeatedly over and over and over again, picking up on how they do things and why they do things the way they do. And as this question just came up, I never did get a chance to grab their links. However, they're names that most folks know. One of them, of course, is Bro in Wood. And he has some courses through his website that'll really give you some insight and just show you, go down the list step by step by step, okay, on how he does things. They're not free, but if you watch his videos and if you're observant, you can pick up on some of the things that he does. One of the things he doesn't, because he doesn't talk in his videos usually, one of the things though that he impresses upon you is that for inlay work, your machine really, really needs to be dialed in. It needs to be dialed in for and calibrated. Your tramming has to be really good. Your calibration has to be excellent. So when you send that x-axis, say for the sake of argument, 2 inches or 50 millimeters, it's actually moving 2 inches or 50 millimeters. It's not going a fraction of an inch or a fraction of a millimeter too far or not far enough. It really needs to be dialed in. Okay? And nobody stresses that. Because if your female is cut undersized slightly and your male is cut oversized slightly, they just won't fit together. So that's a couple of things that nobody wants to talk about. Your setup has to be right on. I have 3 gurus, not 2. I'm sorry, I misspoke. The next one is MTM Wood. He does primarily end grain cutting boards, and more on that in a couple of minutes. But the man is an absolute wizard. He's an artist. And he's the first one I started following that does inlays repeatedly. Okay? That's one of his main custom selling points. It's one of his main products. So I've picked up more from him than I think I have from anybody else. The next one is, on a more personal note, Scott over at M&S Woodworks, or MS Woodworks, excuse me. He has a few videos on doing inlays, although that's not his main focus. And one of them being a redneck's guide to deep inlays. Now, what all of these people have in common is they mainly work in end grain. And I can't stress that enough. They mainly work in end grain. It's a lot more forgiving than face grain or edge grain, in that you can get sharp corners a lot easier. You can get very small details a lot easier. Because some of the bits these people are using are 10 degree or less, depending upon the project, of course. And that's why you see these fine lines that don't get sanded out. I mean, MTM Wood, Andre over at MTM Wood, he runs all of his inlays through a drum sander several times to get everything nice and flush and smooth, but he doesn't sand through that detail because that detail is cut deep, real deep. As far as colors go, there's a lot that goes into deciding that. Number one, the colors of the inlay itself, the colors of the image that you're following on the inlay. If you've got 4 or 5 colors, you need to try to match those with woods that are available to you. So if you need a bright yellow, yellow heart is a good wood to match that. If you need a bright orange, Padauk will work for a little while, but oxidization is going to cause that orange to turn brown. And there's nothing you can do to stop that. So that needs to be understood between you and the client right off the bat. Some woods like bloodwood or red heart will keep their color, but eventually they will all turn brown because the waxes used for cutting boards don't prevent oxidization. They're more a treatment than they are a sealer. So just know that going in. Eventually, they're gonna turn different colors. and there's nothing you can do to stop that. For instance, cherry, that's one wood that'll start with a light, kind of a caramel color, but just the aging process of cherry will make it darker over time. Almost, but not quite as dark as walnut in some cases, but it'll keep that reddish, orangish tint to it. But because these are going to be exposed to oxygen, you can't prevent oxidization unless you seal it completely. For instance, I know a guy down in Nevada who built a guitar out of Purple Heart. The body and the neck are Purple Heart. And when he was finished with it, excuse me, there must be a dozen light coats of lacquer built up over about a month of spraying, allowing it to dry, but not completely cure, sanding, and then more of a top coat, and just kept building up over the course of about a month. And that guitar, he built that in 1997. I took pictures, and before we moved back up here in 2012. So 1997 to 2012, that's what, 15 years. And that guitar was still just as purple as the day he applied the first coat. So you have to be able to seal that completely from oxygen to keep those colors. That's not conducive to cutting boards if that's what it's for. Now, it's for something that's going to be decorative, then a good top coat applied in layers of a clear coat of your choice. Can be urethane, can be lacquer, can be whatever. But a good clear coat to seal it from oxygen is the only way to keep that color. So, and that's what does it. Now I see here Ray Dixon. Howdy, Ray. Hope you're doing well. Asks, what is a good wood for blue? Personally, I don't know. I saw Brooks Martin says, Google says blue Maho. Never used it. I have never used it. I don't know anything about it. This is the first time hearing of that wood. It is completely unknown to me. If you are using, if this is going to be in contact with food, you need to do your research, because not all woods, that's something a lot of people don't talk about. Not all woods are food safe. Wood is a natural product, and all woods contain oils, tannins, and various chemicals within them that are that can be toxic, and some are downright toxic. There's a wood that was known in Hawaii as sandbox wood that is definitely toxic. I don't know any other name for it, but they called it sandbox wood, and it's definitely toxic. And you don't even want to mess with it. Kukui was another one. It's a wood it's a tree rather that drops nuts. And what they'll do is they'll take the nut in the shell, they'll dye it, and they'll make leis for men. When you see men wearing a necklace that are black nuts, those are kukui nuts. And they call them the 1, 2, 3 nut because, and this is totally off script, totally just, if you eat one kukui nut, by the time you're finished chewing and swallowing, you can make it to the bathroom safely by walking. If you eat 2, you can make it to the bathroom if you run. If you eat 3, don't even bother walking. Don't even bother. Just accept your fate because it's happening now. Yeah. So the wood itself is very similar. Not as dramatic, but it's very similar. And you don't want to eat anything that's come off a cutting board using that. So be careful about your woods. All right. Brooks goes on to say, Google statement, blue mahoe is the national tree of Jamaica, features a heartwood that can range from gunmetal blue to a muted blue-gray or periwinkle. Supplies are scarce and very costly. Yeah. I've never heard of it. And I don't know if my local hardwood supplier here in West Dump Truck, Southern Oregon, can get a hold of it. But I'm going to explore it, but it looks neat, or sounds neat, rather. So, but that's another thing that you're going to have to talk with your client about, in that some colors just can't be matched in woods because, again, wood is a natural product and colors are going to change over time. But if you're doing this for something decorative that's not going to be used for food contact or something like that, you can get into dyes. You can get into things of that nature. Some folks have heard of aniline dyes. They don't use aniline anymore because aniline itself is toxic. So they've moved on to other types of dyes for wood. But I will say this from personal experience. Don't limit yourself to wood dyes that you find on Amazon or what have you, because most of those are different tints and shades of brown. I've used them. They are very effective. They do work. And they're pretty forgiving depending upon what you're trying to dye. But also think about fabric dyes. And I don't mean RIT. Get RIT dyes out of your head. You can get some result with RIT dyes, but for the cost, they're just not cost effective. RIT dye is made it's kind of a jack of all trades, because something I have discovered with my wife's fiber hobby in cleaning fleeces and processing them and then dyeing them, both with commercial dyes and natural dyes that she makes. Different fabrics react to different types of dyes. So something that is a protein-based like wool needs a different formulation to dye it than something that is cellulose-based like cotton or flax or rayon, which is a cellulose-based fabric. So any dye that will work with cotton will work on wood as well. And there is a dye called Procyon MX, Procyon. And I'll get links for all of this. I'll get links to MTM Wood and MS Woodworks and Broen Wood, and I'll put them all on a pinned a pinned comment as soon as we're done. And I will also get a link to a website. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, where you can pick up Procyon MX dyes. I have used deep blue. I've used turquoise. I've used brick red. I've used all kinds of these dyes. And some you can get online. Well, you can get all of them online. Some of them you can get locally if you go to artist shops that sell artist supplies. And I don't mean like Michael's or things like that, although they may carry them. Jacquard is a big brand name. They sell Procyon dyes. And they work very well with wood, with cane, with cellulose-based fibers. and they come in a rainbow of colors. Any color you can think of, you can get. Bright yellow, cobalt blue, fire engine red, whatever. Now, the problem, Jack in the Shop, is that most dyes like Kool-Aid, beet juice, any of that stuff, they're going to oxidize. They're not going to hold their color. So it'll be fine at first, but eventually, just like everything else natural like that, they're going to rot. And when they rot, they turn brown. So those colors won't fix. Some you can get to fix if it's waterborne, like, coffee. If you stain with, real concentrated coffee, we're talking almost syrupy dark. You can stain with that and then sand down any raised grain, throw a sanding sealer over or put a little bit more on it, let it dry, throw a sanding sealer over it, and then sand it smooth. It will fix. Coffee will. And don't ask me why. It does, but other things won't. I've tried them. Coffee does work. But this was a big thing that I learned with Linda's fiber thing. They need what dyes need is they need a mordant, which is something that will saturate the dye into whatever fibers. It's kind of like a carrier. And they also need something to fix the dye. Now, people get scared when I say this. The Procyon is an acid-based dye. The acid, however, could be vinegar, or it could be citric acid, or a couple of other things like that. If you have ever dyed Easter eggs, you have worked with an acid dye. And in fact, those Easter egg dyes will work for wood. So if you've ever colored Easter eggs, you notice you put a little bit of vinegar in there, that's to fix the color. It's the acid in the vinegar that fixes the color. So know that going in. You can use dyes. And again, I'll find a link for the Procyon dyes, and you can go through and check the colors. And the colors vary. They're sold by weight. And you can buy little small sample jars that are a couple, $3. Or you can buy a pound, 5 pounds, 100 pounds if you want it. It's a dry powder that you mix with water. And, you may have to use, okay, Linda just popped in. Thank you for showing up. I was hoping your fiber meanings would come along, or your fiber experience would come in. Kool-Aid is an acid dye. I use it all the time. Yes. She also uses Wilton cake dye. So, Pete over at Nature's Live Edge, who does some beautiful work, says, I've been using stabilized wood for inlays. The results have been amazing. Color all the way through. Yeah. I mean, I wish he did YouTube videos because he's an absolute artist. Pete, I salute you. Kool-Aid stains my carpet. I know that much. Yeah. So, well, now that you mention it, Linda, I wonder, does it have citric acid in it or something to that effect that fixes the color? Maybe Kool-Aid will work. I hadn't tried it because I knew colors like that would fade over time. But again, it depends on your purpose. Some woods go well with other woods, and some woods don't go in there at all. I saw a reference to blue pine in the chat here a minute ago. Mixing hardwoods with softwoods and a cutting board is a disaster that has found a place to happen. It's just waiting for a convenient time. And the main issue with it is they expand and contract with changes in humidity and temperature at different rates. Something like pine will expand and contract differently than walnut will, or maple will. And you will find cracking really quickly. Really quickly. So don't mix hardwoods with softwoods. It's if you're going to make a complete softwood cutting board, then you're fine. But if you got hardwoods in there, you're looking for trouble. You are looking for trouble. So, all right, Linda just popped in with a little bit more here. A Procyon dye, specifically Procyon MX, is a type of cold water fiber reactive dye that forms a permanent covalent bond with natural cellulose fibers. And Kool-Aid does have citric acid, I think. Yeah. Procyon is advertised as an acid dye. So that may be something with the website. And I think Dharma Trading, that's what it is. I couldn't think of the name of the website. But I will link Dharma Trading and Procyon dyes in the pinned comment as soon as we're finished here. But it starts as a discussion with your client and what kind of an inlay do they want. And you'll have to come to an understanding between you that some colors just can't be matched unless they want to go the dye route. Then it's got to be understood that this may mean that it's not food safe and you can't use it. So, and then for dyeing, follow the directions on the bottle. Or there are instructions on Dharma Trading as to how to use the dye and how to use it properly. And it does work, I'm here to tell you. But fair warning, a little goes a long way. It doesn't take much. So you don't need to buy a pound of dye for one little project. Because, well, I bought the royal blue I bought a 7/8 of an ounce jar and been using it for, I think, about 6 years now. Longer than that. So it's just a matter of how far you want to go and what you want to do. Now, you can buy dyed woods out there. They're a fruit wood that can be used for marquetry because they're usually thin like a veneer. And talk to Butch about marquetry. Butch does he does some beautiful work that would blow your mind. Butch Miller. Talk to him about marquetry. But for inlays, I don't know how thick they run. Personally, if I'm deciding an inlay, I look for hardwoods that look good together. And I look for hardwoods that are compatible. Stay away from Ipe, spelled IPE. It's used a lot for decks. It's things like that. Ipe has such a high silica content that it will dull knives, it'll dull tools, it'll dull, it'll go through sandpaper like you wouldn't believe. It'll dull bits. It is so dense that its expansion and contraction. And that's one of the things that makes it so desirable for decks, for instance, is because, like, if you build a deck out of pine, you know how it's going to expand and contract. Some folks leave an 1/8 inch gap between deck boards, and that's going to, you know, allow it to expand and contract. Ipe expands and contracts very little. It is very, very dense. And if you ever work with it, just know you're going to go through blades. One of my channel members, Bob, up in Canada, they made a deck out of Ipe. And it wasn't a huge deck. It He went through, I think he said 3 saw blades, just in cutting them to side. Excuse me, cutting the pieces to size. And it'll tear up blades. Also, if you've never used it before, know something. It's a real dark wood. I have some. I wish I had some out here, but I don't have any. It's a real dark wood. It's gorgeous. But when you start sanding it, the sanding dust is bright yellow. And I mean sunshine yellow. You can see that tape behind me. That's a 2-sided tape. It's more bright yellow than that is. This is all, you can almost hear it yellow. And it'll freak you out if you ain't prepared for it. First time I was cutting it on my table saw, I'm like, what's all this yellow stuff? What's all this yellow stuff? So, and that's exactly what it was. So stay away from Ipe. Jack in the shop says, I think that is Ipe I use for the faces of my wood mallets. That would be perfect use for it. That would be a perfect use for it. H Center says, I like Wenge and walnut for dark. Me too. Me too. Wenge it's a real splintery wood, but it's gorgeous in an inlay, or even in just a cutting board. I've made a couple of cutting boards. One my wife won't let me touch, and another big one for me that I do use. And there are pieces of Wenge scattered around in there. You know, I find I don't have one handy to show you. I don't have one handy to show you, but my very first channel member and very, very dear friend of this channel, Sargon, who was out there, OC Laser, he sent me some, I think there were blanks for trophies or presentation boards that were either the laser engraving didn't work or something went wrong with them. And they were Wenge with a stripe of canary wood and then Wenge again. And I used some of that in cutting boards. I have a lot more over here to be used for another project I have in the back of my brain. But what I found was that little spot where the Wenge met the canary wood. Rather than cutting right on that line, I cut about a 1/2 inch wide strip. So I had like a 1/4 inch of Wenge and a 1/4 inch of canary wood. And then those pieces there ended up going into cutting boards. So I had a little bit of canary wood and a little bit of Wenge in those panels. And it turned out beautiful. Wenge end grain is a little bit open. So be aware of that. You'll want to get a lot of wax in there if it's going to be used. Or if you're like me, I use 100% tung oil. So I had to put on a coat, let it sit for 2 weeks, and then start building up my coats from there. And then I could go with a coat a week. Because tung oil has to cure. Otherwise, you're just feeding more and more and more oil into it that's not going to cure. and eventually the surface will cure, trapping all that uncured oil in it. So you go with a little bit of tung oil over the top and let it cure to kind of seal up those pores. Then you start adding a little bit more, and a little bit more. Linseed oil, either raw or boiled, is a good oil for like butcher blocks and cutting boards. The only thing is, just know you're going to have to treat it a lot more often. But you certainly can use linseed oil. There's not a thing wrong with it. Let's see, Kimberly's having an issue here. Okay, Steve over at Harney Media says Ipe is also used a lot for outdoor shower floors and boat shower floors. Yeah, I've even seen it used as on boat decks. So a lot of the duckboard things that you see in a marine environment are made out of Ipe or teak. Teak is more expensive, but teak has got so much natural oil in it that when you go to glue two pieces of teak together, you have to, and I mean scrub, each surface that you're going to glue with acetone, and then use like an epoxy. Just regular wood glue won't cut it, because the oils will eventually come back to those edges, and that glue joint will fail. So, Kimberly's saying was using a planer joiner to mill some wonky walnut and noticed the roller is leaving a mark, so looking at replacing it. Are you sure it's the roller and not the blade? Maybe you've got a nick in the blade. So, 8 Center says they use Iroquois in place of teak more over here. It's cheaper but similar for outdoor protection. And a lot of what's coming over here is Iroquois too, because teak's getting expensive. So, Jack in the Shop says I just use mineral oil and beeswax mix for cutting boards. Yeah, most people do in a situation where it is going to be come in contact with food. You know, mineral oil, you can get pharmaceutical grade mineral oil at your local big box store. Go over to the in the pharmacy section, and it's cheap. I mean, $3 a pint or something like that. It's real cheap, and then you can get beeswax in a number of places. Craft stores and things of that nature. You can order it online or make friends with a beekeeper. Buy some honey. Buy some local honey. They're out there. Just look around, because they deal with beeswax daily. So, Kimberly says no. The mark is helical. I can see the black rubber streaks. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, a feed roller. Make sure it's nice and clean. And something I found was I take a rag. Now you got to shut everything down and unplug it. I take a rag with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. I have isopropyl alcohol in here, and I have it in the inside where my 3D printer is. And put it on a rag and wipe those rollers down. Make sure there ain't no dust on it or anything like that. So, yeah, but with mineral oil, your board will drink the whole bottle. It will if you let it, because it'll just go straight through. With linseed, you take maybe 3 good coats, then top it up once a year. A little goes a lot further. You're absolutely right. That's because mineral oil doesn't cure where linseed oil does. And linseed oil will solidify into a flexible coating. That's why I say, yeah, raw or boiled. Just be careful. Read your labels and make sure, and this is not specifically for you, 8 Center, because I know you're using raw linseed oil. But in everything, make sure that you are, when you buy linseed oil. It's pure linseed oil. And there aren't any other thinners or chemicals or varnishes or something like that mixed in them. You know, you're generally safe with something that is marked food grade. But linseed oil will cure. So, yes, it's not using as much. But what most folks do, 8th Center, when talking about mineral oil, they mix it with the beeswax so it does solidify. And I believe it's, I always get this wrong. Is it 4 parts oil to 1 part wax or 4 parts wax to 1 part oil? I don't remember. I know it's a 4-to-1 ratio. But then you heat up the wax and you mix the oil in it and then it solidifies. So you will wipe mineral oil over the board as a kind of a prep, and you do both sides all the way around, let it sit, wipe down anything that's weeping from the top or bottom. Then you come back with that oil and wax mixture and work it into those pores to seal them up. But that's something that has to be rejuvenated occasionally after use. Now, a lot of people, Linda included, I'm looking at you, baby. She just doesn't use her cutting board, and she won't let me near it with anything metal, not just knives. I can't even get close to it with a spatula or a pair of tongs. In that case, just occasional wipe down and reapply to give it a luster again. And it works. It works well. There are commercial butcher block conditioners out there. Howard's Butcher Block Conditioner is one of them. It's just a brand I can think of off the top of my head. But make sure you get Butcher Block Conditioner, not Howard's Feed and Wax. Howard Feed and Wax is not food safe, and it's right there on the label. Not food safe. Don't use it on anything that's and is nope. It's perfect, and I want it to stay that way. Okay. Yeah. What can I say? Jack in the shop. I keep having to tell customers not to put the boards in the dishwasher. I got to look for it, Jack. Hold on. Let me look for it. I have a picture of what happens when you put a cutting board in the dishwasher. I just got to find it because somebody did that. Man, I just got to find it. Oh. Well, I can't find it now. Ah, here we go. And yes, if you're ever curious about what happens if you put an ingrain cutting board in the dishwasher, here it is. This is what happens. Now, depending upon how much you paid for that cutting board, you have just rendered it basically useless. Having said that, if a person did that, then basically encapsulated in epoxy, something could be made out of that. But yeah, that's what happens when you put a cutting board in the dishwasher. And Jack, I'll see if I have your email address. I think I have your email address. I'll send you this if you want to add it to your, you know. But I like when I made some bread boards for my daughters. Before I handed it to them, I had my hands on it. They had their hands on it, and I was like, repeat after me. I will not put this in the dishwasher. And I would not let go until they repeated it twice. So, um, Butch Miller's had firsthand experience. One lady brought one back and said, "I put it in the," and I said, "You put it in the dishwasher, didn't you?" Yeah, yeah, that's a major, major, major no-no. Ray Russell says it does give it really good juice grooves. Yeah, well, that's true. It's kind of like using a window screen for a cutting board, though. So, yeah, that'll evacuate the juice for sure. So anyway, what started this whole thing was um, what colors do you have the pattern in your mind? Maybe at first, but I mark it out. You can in VCarve, well, Cut 2D, VCarve, or Aspire. You can print your design, and in fact, it's not on this computer. Otherwise, I just bring it up on the screen. I'm doing a wedding sign for my next door neighbors, and that is the layout that I printed from VCarve Pro with dimensions and the whole thing. You can print the design and then assign colors on paper right there and work with it that way. Um, so it all comes down to what you and your client, um, what you agree on, you know, and its use. Now, when you're giving, say, a cutting board, um, it would be tempting to imprint "do not put in dishwasher" on the back with laser or something. Perfectly logical. And some people need that practical advice. Others will say, well, duh, you don't want to run this in the dishwasher. That message isn't for them. That message is for the people who would think about putting it in the dishwasher. You know, it's kind of it's kind of along the lines of you see that tag hanging off your iron that says "Do not iron the clothes you're wearing." Now that may not be for you or me, but some folks need that advice. You know, somebody out there is thinking about it right now. That's the sad part. Somebody is getting ready to do it. I know. But you can't protect some people from themselves. I mean, that's why I don't do anything for babies or infants. No, for young children, nope. That's just because of liability. You know, wooden toys, trucks like that, you're talking about a 7, 8 year old. You know, that's different. But like high chairs and things, nope, nope, not doing it. So, all right. Bill Smith says, looking for some guidelines for cutting aluminum. Going to be using 1/8 and 1/4 inch O flip and 1/4 inch plate. Speeds and feeds. I can't help you with speeds and feeds. That is that is machine specific. I don't know what kind of machine you have. I know my equipment. I know my Avid CNC will cut aluminum with no problem. I don't know about Onefinity or a Shapeoko or something like that. I have no doubt that it can. I just don't know the machine's limitations, and it's going to be machine specific. What I would do, to be honest with you, is I would find a forum or a Facebook group or a Reddit group or something like that specific to your machine. For instance, if you have a Shapeoko, I would find the Shapeoko forum and then go post your question over there. If you have an Avid, Avid has a great forum. Go in there. There are several people, for those of you who can speak, like uh, Jim Neeb, right off the top of my head. Eric, I can't pronounce his last name right off the top of my head. Um, they're all very, very, very good. And they can help you walk through your project and give you those feeds and speeds because there are too many variables. Wendell here is he's talking about some of it, the rigidity of your machine, what kind of bit you're using, the O flute, if it's made for aluminum, because O flutes for plastic have a different helix and they have a different grind to their edge. So if it's an O flute bit made for aluminum, you're ahead of the game. If it's made for plastic, don't use that bit. They are different. All O flutes are not created equally. But I would find a forum that is for your machine and talk to folks over there. Just know that heat is your enemy. And heat will weld aluminum to your bit faster than you can say boo, especially if it's a real gummy aluminum. It depends on the grade of aluminum as well. 60, 61, what is it? So, well, anyhow, so I'm sorry I can't give you direct answer because I don't know how experienced you are with CNC, but something to remember is that feeds and speeds are variables. They are always going to change. They're never going to be one. There is no one number. This for hardwood, it's going to change. Are you cutting a real dense wood or are you cutting a real light wood? The feeds and speeds for poplar are different from the feeds and speeds for something like maple, even though they're both hardwoods. So, wish I could be more definitive than that. I just can't. So, let's see. What other questions? Did I miss any questions out here? Butch Miller says, people don't listen. I tell people not to leave my pens laying around unattended. They tend to grow legs. That's true. That's true. That is true. Okay, my machine is a custom built 4x8. It is well built running a spindle. Okay, well, that helps a little bit, but I still don't know how it was built or what have you. Go over to the Avid CNC forum. Just go avidcnc.com and then look for the link to support or forum. And you'll find links. Just follow that menu and you'll find links to the support forum. It's a great group of people, and they'll help you out. I mean, even though you don't have an Avid CNC, they can give you more insights to milling aluminum than I can. I'm a wood guy. What metal people do, like 8th Center, I still think of that with a lot of magical mystery voodoo. In that they can take a chunk of metal and the smallest piece of metal, they can turn it into a fastener. I mean, I've seen guys take a piece of steel rod an inch long and make a bolt out of it. I mean, and that's just, to me, that's way beyond, I'm used to a 1/16 inch builder's tolerance, The lines on my tape measure don't go that small. So, yeah. So, I mean, I would. Steve has just linked the forum. Steve is right on top of it. There's the Avid CNC forum. I would go over there and just let them know it's not an Avid, but what kind of ballpark are we looking at? What kind of spindle RPM and what kind of feed rate am I looking at? And depth of cut matters as well. If you got to make 6 passes to go the depth you want, is that really a good match? You know. But and then we get into cooling. You know, do you have any kind of cooling? Oil mist or a flood coolant that you're going to be using. Brooks Martin, channel member and friend to the channel, he has carved brass with his regular CNC, but he cut himself a template or a fixture out of HDPE, I think, isn't it, Brooks? And then he submerges that whole thing in a pan of water, glues everything down, and then submerges it in a pan of water so he can engrave, and that water keeps everything cool. And he's done some really nice engraving with just a standard CNC. So, yeah, Brooks says it was a HDPE jig. Yeah. And it works. So, Butch Miller says, measure with a yardstick, mark with a crayon, cut with a chainsaw. You are a Pacific Northwesterner. You are a Pacific Northwesterner, if that's what you're doing. So, they aren't making yardsticks any longer. Go to your room, Jack. Let's see here. I think that's all of the questions, or maybe I'm wrong. Let's see here. I'm looking. I'm looking for questions. Okay, somebody's asking, what is stabilized wood? Stabilized wood is, generally speaking, that has been impregnated with an epoxy to where it's absolutely saturated, usually in a vacuum chamber with a vacuum pump to draw out all the air. And when you pull out all the air, you're sucking in and drawing in that epoxy. It's real thin. It's thin as water. And then once that is sit under vacuum for however long it takes to where you're not seeing air bubbles come out anymore, you take that wood out of that epoxy. Most folks kind of wrap it in a little bit of foil. Then you put it in like something like a toaster oven. And the heat cures that epoxy over the course of a few hours. Then after that, it can be used. And you'll see people use stabilized wood a lot with things like ambrosia maple or I'm trying to think of the word for it. Can't think of the word for it now, where you can see a lot of mineral streaks where moisture has come in and then gone out. My God. Can't think of the word. Anyhow, don't get old. It doesn't pay. Stabilizing them and using them, Michael Koenig says, also in burl wood. Basically, they're used where the grain isn't tight enough to maintain structural rigidity. And it's usually used in smaller pieces, something that'll fit into a vacuum chamber. And it's just there to keep everything held together. Spalted, that's what I was trying to think of the word. Spalted maple or spalted cherry or things like that. Things where you've had bacterial, there's evidence of bacterial activity. And stabilizing that wood keeps things together and keeps any of that rot or bacterial activity, keeps it from progressing. Well, it kills the bacteria right off the bat, but it just makes it to where it's workable and usable. Now, to that point, okay, yeah, there you go. Kurt is talking about I stabilize for turning pens and seam rippers and handles for pizza cutters, etc. Yeah, exactly. Michael Koenig says, yes, burls best stabilized. If you want to turn burls into pens, you have to have it stabilized or it will shatter. Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Eight Centers says it's used for mammoth and bone and horn a lot too. Yeah, because that is porous. And a lot of folks don't think about that. It is porous. So, uh-oh, look out. Steve's back at it. Yes, they are, to Jack in the Shop. Amazon has 48-inch yardsticks. Yes, okay. Now, that may be the case, Steve, but is it truly a yardstick by then? I mean, I was going to bring up meter sticks, which are 39 inches long, but are they truly yardsticks at that point? I don't know. Anyway, Bill Coleman says, Steve, that's a measuring stick, not a yardstick. I'm with you, Bill. I'm with you. And Ray Dixon says he's not stable like anybody else here is. All right. I mean, what can I say? Well, I'll tell you what. We've been going for an hour. Are there any general CNC or Vectric questions? Oops, nope, wrong one. Crafty Jan says that's a stick Granny would fetch to get after us when naughty. Yeah. And Linda says if you use it in your yard, yes, it's a yardstick. Okay. All y'all are getting something. I, however, used to buy these cheap aluminum yardsticks and then use them. Yeah, you can see on the back. I would use them as layout scales for fretboards. And they work quite well. This one is for, Spanish long scale, 26 1/8 long. And the other side is for a 25 and 21/32 standard flamenco guitar. So that's what I used them for, was for that's what I use these yardsticks for. And it works great. A yardstick is a stick I chase you around the yard with till you learn who's in command. That also has another name. That's an LDAAD, or LDAD. And that stands for Light Duty Attitude Adjustment Device. So, Pete is, Mark, are you back on your CNC? I'm getting there. The doctor released me to go back to work on the CNC router because basically my hands are away from the sharp spinny bits. And I was learning new control software when all this started. And I'm still not super proficient with it. I'm building up to it. So I'm about to get back on it, though, because my neighbor, I was showing you that wedding sign template. I have to make them a wedding sign. And the wedding's coming up. In fact, it's 1 month and 3 days away. So it's getting close. So. All right. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I pushed my luck with YouTube and EV Mux. Jack in the Shop is asking what software I'm working on. CNC 12, which is Centroid Acorn based, for the EX controller on the Avid CNC. I stepped away from the Mach 4 controller and working with CNC 12. So I'm just learning it. with the tool touch off links and all that other stuff that with the, rather the tool height setter, you can just barely see over my shoulder right there on the front of it. And it's just not something that I ever concerned myself with. Set Z0 and go. Now I got to worry about tool numbers and all this other good stuff. So it's just, I got to get used to it. So Pete says you would love CNC 12. Well, here's hoping. I'm trying to get proficient with it. And I'll put it to you this way. I haven't put a bit to wood yet. So, all right. I will get links to MTM Wood, to Broin Wood, and to MS Woodworks. And I will also see, what was the other link I was going to, Procyon Die. I didn't write that down. Procyon. All right. I will get a link to Dharma Trading and put that again in a pinned comment down at the bottom. Well, up at the top of the comment section. As soon as we're done live. YouTube won't let me do it while we're live. Ray Russell is asking, are you going to the users group meeting in Nashville? I can't say yes. I can't say no. It's not looking good, but I can't say no yet, Ray. Mark, how do you set up a dial probe on VCarve, or is that even possible? You talk about a dial indicator, checking the depth of the VCarve. There are several ways of attaching a dial indicator to your spindle. Some as simple as a block of wood with a shaft that you lock in the collet of your spindle with the dial indicator off to the side. Or you can 3D print something that will go around your collet or collet nut, and then you, with the dial indicator hooked directly underneath it. I mean, if that's what you're talking about. Checking a member. Oh, digital probe is what you're asking about. Yes, you can, but I have never done that. I have no idea how to do a digital probe. And that wouldn't be with the Vectric software. That would be with your controller. And taking all those points into a point cloud, and then software that can read that point cloud and come up with the shape that you're talking about. It is possible. I've just never done it. I wanted to get into it until I found other ways of doing it. And Wendell's right. It does depend on the machine controller. Not every controller will do it. I'm only familiar with Mach 3 and Mach 4, and I know both of them will. But I don't know which level of Mach 4 is required for that. I know Mach 3 will do it. So, I've seen the devices, but how does the software interact? Again, I have no idea. And yeah, Wendell's correct. Some software has built-in probing cycles. So that's not a topic that I'm familiar with. And I wish I was, because I'd like to do some myself. So other than that, channel members, tomorrow, I have no idea what we're going to do, because one person is not going to be there. And I was kind of relying on them. Not really relying on them, but kind of hoping they'd be there. So I have no idea what we're going to do. Now's your chance. You got a comment, question, concern, shoot me an email. You know how to get a hold of me. Shoot me an email. I need a topic tomorrow. Otherwise, it's going to be just an endless parade of me tap dancing. All right? I'll try to figure something out. If you don't know what I'm talking about, or you'd like information about channel membership, down below this video panel, you'll see the word join. Go ahead and click on that. You're not joining anything. You're just getting information. Ellen says she has a few requests. Email them to me, girl. What are you waiting for? Why? you're not joining anything. You're just getting information. Another video is going to pop up. Never play, tell you all about channel membership. We have a great group of folks, and every one of them is dedicated to helping one another succeed in all of our projects, no matter what they may be. And I've been fortunate enough, well, blessed enough to be a part of a community that has no egos. Nobody tries to lord anything over anybody or look down on anybody. They're all 100% dedicated to helping one another succeed. I mean, we have a WhatsApp chat group that just goes nuts on occasion. We have, I mean, there are all kinds of perks to becoming a channel member. The WhatsApp group, the Facebook chat, Saturday live BS sessions that where it's just a Zoom call where we just sit and talk about life, the universe, and everything. And anything and nothing. 3D printing, laser, CNC router, barbecue, just whatever. We have a great old time. We have a Thursday 3D printing live stream where we break down the design software. We break down the slicing software. We show off projects that we have printed and just generally have a great 3D printing discussion. So that's on Thursday evenings. Our regular members-only live streams on Monday evenings and our Saturday BS sessions. It's a lot of fun, not to mention the WhatsApp chat. All right, next Sunday, I'm working on a guest. We'll see if it happens. But I'm not 100% sure. More on that later. Other than that, I'm just going to say thank you for spending part of your Sunday with me. I appreciate each and every one of you. Some of you have been with me for a lot of years, and I appreciate your continued support. So, thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Y'all take care.